Hello all. Today we will talk about Apple Incorporation Company. So let's start. Apple Incorporation designs, manufactures and markets smartphones, personal computers, tablets, wearables and accessories worldwide. The company offers iPhone, a line of smartphones, Mac, a line of personal computers, iPad, a line of multi-purpose tablets, and wearables, home and accessories comprising AirPods, Apple Vision Pro, Apple TV, Apple Watch, Beats products, and HomePod, as well as Apple branded and third-party accessories. It also provides Apple Care support and cloud services and operates various platforms including the App Store that allow customers to discover and download applications and digital content such as books, music, video games, and podcasts, as well as advertising services include third-party licensing agreements and its own advertising platforms. In addition, the company offers various subscription-based services such as Apple Arcade, a game subscription service, Apple Fitness Plus, a personalized fitness service, Apple Music, which offers users a curated listening experience with on-demand radio stations, Apple News Plus, a subscription news and magazine service, Apple TV, which offers exclusive original content and live sports, Apple Card, a co-branded credit card, and Apple Pay, a cashless payment service, as well as licenses its intellectual property. The company serves consumers and small and mid-sized businesses and the education, enterprise, and government markets. It distributes third-party applications for its products through the App Store. The company also sells its products through its retail and online stores and direct sales force and third-party cellular network carriers and resellers. The company was formerly known as Apple Computer Incorporation and changed its name to Apple Incorporation in January 2007. Apple Incorporation was founded in 1976 and is headquartered in Cupertino, California. So this is the information about Apple Incorporation. Now we will talk about Apple leadership. Tim Cook, Chief Executive Officer in Apple Incorporation Company. Tim Cook is the CEO of Apple and serves on its board of directors before being named CEO in August 2011. Tim was Apple's Chief Operating Officer and was responsible for all of the company's worldwide sales and operations, including end-to-end management of Apple's supply chain, sales activities, and service and support in all markets and countries. He also headed Apple's Macintosh division and played a key role in the continued development of strategic reseller and supplier relationships, ensuring flexibility in response to an increasingly demanding marketplace. Prior to joining Apple, Tim was vice president of corporate materials for Compaq and was responsible for procuring and managing all of Compaq's product inventory. Previous to his work at Compaq, Tim was the Chief Operating Officer of the Reseller Division at Intelligent Electronics. Tim also spent 12 years with IBM, most recently as Director of North American Fulfillment, where he led manufacturing and distribution functions for IBM's personal computer company in North and Latin America. Tim earned an MBA from Duke University, where he was a Fuqua scholar, and a Bachelor of Science degree in Industrial Engineering from Auburn University. So this is the information about Tim Cook, that is a Chief Executive Officer post in Apple Incorporation Company. Now we will talk about another Apple leadership name is Eddie Q, Senior Vice President Services in Apple Incorporation Company. So let's start. Eddie Q is Apple's Senior Vice President of Services, reporting to CEO Tim Cook. Eddie oversees the full range of Apple's services, including Apple Music, Apple News, Apple Podcasts, the Apple TV app, and Apple TV Plus, as well as Apple Pay, Apple Card, Maps, Apple Ads, Apple's iCloud services, and Apple's productivity and creativity apps. Addis team has an excellent track record of building and strengthening world-class services that meet and exceed the high expectations of Apple's customers and offer creators and storytellers the opportunity to bring their creative visions to people around the world. So this is the information about ADQ, who is the Senior Vice President Services Post in Apple Incorporation Company. Now we will talk about another Apple leadership. That name is Craig Federighi, and its post is Senior Vice President Software Engineering post in Apple Incorporation Company. So let's start. Craig Federighi is a Senior Vice President Software Engineering post in Apple Incorporation Company. Craig Federighi is Apple's Senior Vice President of Software Engineering, reporting to CEO Tim Cook. Craig oversees the development of iOS and Mac OS. His teams are responsible for delivering the software at the heart of Apple's innovative products, including the user interface, applications, and frameworks. Craig returned to Apple in 2009 to lead Mac OS engineering, and 2012 took on responsibility for iOS as well, delivering all subsequent releases of the world's most advanced desktop and mobile operating systems. So this is the information about Craig Federighi, who is the Senior Vice President Software Engineering post in Apple Incorporation Company. Now we will talk about another Apple leadership. That name is John Giannandri, who is the Senior Vice President Machine Learning and AI Strategy in Apple Incorporation Company. So let's start. John Giannandri is Apple's Senior Vice President of Machine Learning and AI Strategy, reporting to CEO Tim Cook. John joined Apple in 2018 and oversees the strategy for artificial intelligence and machine learning across the company and development of core ML and Sri technologies. Prior to Apple, John spent 8 years at Google, where he led the machine intelligence, research, and search teams. Before this, he co-founded two technology companies, Tell-Me Networks and MetaWeb Technologies. Earlier in his career, John was a senior engineer and general magic. So this is the information about John Giannandri, who is the Senior Vice President Machine Learning and AI Strategy post in Apple Incorporation Company. Now, now we will talk about another Apple leadership. That name is Greg George Joswiak is the Senior Vice President Worldwide Marketing in Apple Incorporation Company. So let's start. Greg George Joswiak is Apple's Senior Vice President of Worldwide Marketing, reporting to CEO Tim Cook. Since joining Apple in June 1986, George has played a pivotal role in developing and launching some of the world's most beloved consumer products, including the original iPod and iPhone. George began his career at Apple working on the early Macintosh computers and supporting the Mac's community of third-party developers. George has over 30 years of marketing and management experience at Apple, most recently as the Vice President of Apple Product Marketing, where he managed the product marketing and product management teams responsible for Apple's entire product lineup. George graduated with a Bachelor of Science in Computer Engineering from the University of Michigan in 1986. So this is the information about Greg George Joswiak, who is the Senior Vice President Worldwide Marketing Post in Apple Incorporation Company. Now we will talk about another Apple leadership. That name is Sabih Khan, that is working as a Chief Operating Officer in Apple Incorporation Company. So let's start. Sabih Khan is Apple's Chief Operating Officer, reporting to CEO Tim Cook. In this role, he oversees Apple's entire worldwide operations as well as Apple Care, customer service and support. Sabih leads the team in charge of Apple's global supply chain, ensuring product quality and overseeing planning, procurement, manufacturing, logistics, and product fulfillment functions, as well as Apple's suppliers responsibility programs that protect and educate workers and supplier facilities around the world. The operations team also supports Apple's environmental initiatives by partnering with suppliers to propel green manufacturing, helping conserve resources and protect the planet. And as the leader of Apple Care, Saab also oversees the dedicated team that help customers navigate any service and support they need for all of their Apple products and services. So this is the information about Sabih Khan, who is the Chief Operating Officer in Apple Incorporation Company. Now we will talk about another Apple's leadership. That name is Deirdre O'Brien, Senior Vice President, Retail plus People. Deirdre O'Brien is Apple's Senior Vice President of Retail plus People, reporting to CEO Tim Cook as the leader of Apple's retail and online teams. Deirdre supports their works to enrich the lives of millions of Apple customers every year with a laser focus on the connection between customers and the people and processes that serve them. Deirdre and her team create retail experiences that educate and inspire. Deirdre has played an integral role in every Apple product launch throughout her tenure. In her role as the leader of the people team, Deirdre is dedicated to helping everyone at Apple do the best work of their lives, build on the company's special culture, and achieve their full potential. Her teams foster connections and support employees and leaders across the company, overseeing a diverse range of functions including Apple University, business partnerships, talent management, recruiting, employee relations, inclusion and diversity, compensation and benefits, and people support and technology. A 35-year Apple veteran, Deirdre holds a bachelor's degree in operations management from Michigan State University and MBA from San Jose State University. So this is the information about Deirdre O'Brien, who is the Senior Vice President Retail plus People post in Apple Incorporation Company. Now we will talk about another Apple leadership. That name is Johnny Shroji, who is the Senior Vice President Hardware Technologies. So let's start. Johnny Shroji serves as Senior Vice President of Hardware Technologies at Apple, reporting to CEO Tim Cook. Johnny has built one of the world's strongest and most innovative teams of silicon and technology engineers, leading breakthrough custom chips and hardware technologies, including Apple silicon, batteries, cameras, storage, controllers, sensors, displays, and other critical technologies across Apple's entire product line. So, this is the information about Johnny Shroji, who is the Senior Vice President, Hardware Technologies Post in Apple's Incorporation Company. Now, we will talk about another Apple leadership. That name is John Turnus, who is the Senior Vice President, Hardware Engineering Post in Apple Incorporation Company. So let's start. John Turnus is Apple's Senior Vice President of Hardware Engineering, reporting to CEO Tim Cook. John leads all hardware engineering, including the teams behind iPhone, iPad, Mac, AirPods, and more. John joined Apple's product design team in 2001 and has been a vice president of hardware engineering since 2013. Throughout his tenure and Apple, John has overseen hardware engineering work on a variety of groundbreaking products, including every generation and model of iPad, the latest iPhone lineup, and AirPods. He has been a key leader in the ongoing transition of the Mac to Apple Silicon. Prior to Apple, John worked as a mechanical engineer at Virtual Research Systems. He holds a bachelor's degree in mechanical engineering from the University of Pennsylvania. So, this is the information about John Turnus, who is the Senior Vice President Hardware Engineering post in Apple Incorporation Company. Now, we will talk about Another Apple leadership, that name is Mike Fenger, who is the Vice President Worldwide Sales in Apple Incorporation Company. So let's start. Mike Fenger is Apple's Vice President of Worldwide Sales, reporting to CEO Tim Cook. Mike oversees global product sales for Apple, and his team plays an important part in helping customers discover products they love. Since joining Apple in 2008, he has also had a key role in strength, strengthening telecommunications and consumer electronic reseller partnerships and deepening connections with customers in enterprise, education, and government. He began his Apple career as Vice President of Global iPhone Sales, where he led the expansion of iPhone distribution to customers around the globe. Mike has over 20 years of experience building and leading sales teams for global companies. Before joining Apple, he held senior positions at General Electric and Motorola, where he helped develop and execute a strategy for sales, operations, marketing, and supply chain management in the Americas. So, this is the information about Mike Fenger, who is the Vice President Worldwide Sales in Apple Incorporation Company. Now we will talk about another Apple leadership. That name is Lisa Jackson, who is the Vice President Environment, Policy and Social Initiatives in Apple Incorporation Company. So let's start. Lisa Jackson is Apple's Vice President of Environment, Policy and Social Initiatives, reporting to CEO Tim Cook. Lisa oversees Apple's efforts to minimize its impact on the environment by addressing climate change through renewable energy and energy efficiency, using greener materials and inventing new ways to conserve precious resources. She also leads Apple's focused on education, economic opportunity, and criminal justice reform, and is responsible for Apple's education policy programs, its product accessibility work, and its worldwide government affairs function. From 2009 to 2013, Lisa served as administrator of the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency appointed by President Barack Obama. She focused on reducing greenhouse gases, protecting air and water quality, preventing exposure to toxic contamination and expanding outreach to communities on environmental issues. She has also served as Chief of Staff to New Jersey Governor John S. Corjine and as Commissioner of New Jersey Department of Environmental Protection. Lisa holds a master's degree in chemical engineering from Princeton University and a bachelor's degree in chemical engineering from Tulane University. She serves on the boards of Tulane as a film Conservation International and the American Film Institute. So, this is the information about Lisa Jackson, who is the Vice President, Environment Policy and Social Initiatives post in Apple Incorporation Company. Now, we will talk about another Apple leadership. That name is Isabel G. Mahe, who is the Vice President and Managing Director of Greater China in Apple Incorporation Company. So let's start. Isabel G. Mahe is Apple's Vice President and Managing Director of Greater China, reporting to CEO Tim Cook and COO Sabih Khan. Isabel provides leadership and coordination across Apple's China-based team. Isabel joined Apple in 2008 as Vice President of Wireless Technologies, overseeing the development of cellular, Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, NFC location, and motion technologies for nearly every Apple product. She also played a key role in developing new China-specific features for iPhone and iPad. Before joining Apple, Isabel served as Vice President of Wireless Software Engineering at Palm and held key technical and managerial positions and other wireless companies. Isabel holds a Bachelor of Applied Science and a Master of Engineering from Simon Fraser University in British Columbia and an MBA from the University of California, Berkeley. So this is the information of Isabel G. Mahe, Vice President and Managing Director of Greater China in Apple Incorporation Company. Now we will talk about Tor Mehran, who is the Vice President Marketing Communications. So let's start. Tor Maheran is Apple's Vice President of Marketing Communications, reporting to CEO Tim Cook. Tor Maheran joined Apple in 2016 from Gray, where he was President and Worldwide Chief Creative Officer as head of the Marketing Communications Group. Tor Mahiran leads a talented and creative team focused on Apple's advertising, internet presence, package design, and other consumer-facing marketing. A two-time TED speaker, Tor Mahiran has been named to Fast Company's most creative people in business, Fortune's 40 under 40, Add age, creativity, 50 honoring the world's 50 most influential creative minds and was inducted into the Advertising Federation of America's Hall of Achievement. Tor Mahiran is former journalist and award-winning documentary filmmaker. He holds a bachelor's degree in English literature from Occidental College. So this is the information about Tor Mahirin, who is the Vice President Marketing Communications post in Apple Incorporation Company. Now we will talk about another Apple leadership. That name is Adrian Perica, who is the Vice President Corporate Development post in Apple Incorporation Company. So let's start. Adrian Perica is Apple's Vice President of Corporate Development, reporting to CEO Tim Cook. Adrian is responsible for the company's mergers, acquisitions, and strategic investing efforts since joining Apple in 2009. He has overseen the successful integration of vital technologies and new businesses across hardware, software, and services. In 2023, Adrian took on business leadership for several key services, including iCloud and infrastructure. Prior to Apple, Adrian worked at Goldman Sachs for 8 years, and before that, he worked at Deloitte Consulting and was an officer in the U.S. Army. A Midwest native, Adrian holds a bachelor's degree in physics from the United States Military Academy at West Point and an MBA from the Massachusetts Institute of Technology. So, this is the information about Adrian Perica, who is the Vice President Corporate Development post in Apple Incorporation Company. Now we will talk about another Apple leadership. That name is Kristen Huguet Quelle, who is the Vice President Worldwide Communications. So let's start. Kristen Huguet Quelle is Apple Vice President of Worldwide Communications, reporting to CEO Tim Cook. Kristen is responsible for Apple's global communications strategy, leading the public relations team as well as employee communications. Kristen joined Apple's communications team in 2005 and led the corporate PR team for 7 years. Most recently, as vice president. Throughout her tenure and Apple, Kirsten has played an instrumental role in shaping and sharing Apple's story of innovation and strong values. Prior to Apple, Kirsten worked at Sun Microsystems and Burson Marsteller. She holds a bachelor's degree in communications and political science from Furman University and an MBA from the Haas School of Business at the University of California, Berkeley. So, This is the information about Christian Hogwet Quelle, who is the Vice President Worldwide Communications in Apple Incorporation Company. Now we will talk about Apple leadership. That name is Phil Schiller, who is the Apple Fellow Post in Apple Incorporation Company. So let's start. Phil Schiller is an Apple Fellow responsible for leading the App Store and Apple events. Phil has helped guide Apple's products and marketing for 30 years. Most recently, as the Senior Vice President of Worldwide Marketing. Over the course of his tenure, Phil has helped the company create the best computers in the world with the Mac, lead the digital music revolution with iPod and iTunes, reinvent mobile phones with iPhone and the App Store, and define the future of mobile computing with iPad. Phil's marketing and management career includes previous roles at Macromedia Incorporation of San Francisco, California, Firepower Systems Incorporation of Menlo Park, California, Nolan, Norton and Company of Lexington, Massachusetts, and Massachusetts General Hospital in Boston, MA. Phil graduated with a Bachelor of Science degree in biology from Boston College in 1982. So, this is the information about Phil Schiller, who is the working as a Apple Fellow in Apple Incorporation Company. Before investment, you should consult your financial advisor and take decision. So this is the information about Apple Incorporation Company, where CEO Tim Cook doing a very great work, and in coming years Apple Incorporation can be launched many iPhones in coming years. Apple company was founded in 1976. Steve Jobs and Steve Wozniak co-founded Apple's in Jobs' parents' home on Crest Drive in Los Altos, California. Wozniak called the popular belief that the company was founded in garage. Apple Computer Company was founded on April 1st, 1976 by Steve Jobs, Steve Wozniak, and Ronald Van as a partnership. The company's first product was the Apple I, a computer designed and hand-built entirely by Wozniak. So now presently Tim Cook working as a CEO in Apple company, and it's another leadership doing a very great work, and in coming years you can see many features can be added in Apple's product. Since the company's founding and into the early 2000s, Apple primarily sold computers which are marketed as Macintosh since the mid 1980s. Since then, the company has expanded the product categories to include various portable devices, starting with the now discontinued iPod 2001 and later with the iPhone 2007 and iPad 2010. Apple also sells several other products that it categorizes as wearables, homes, and accessories such as Apple Watch, Apple TV, AirPods, HomePod, and Apple Vision Pro. Apple devices have been praised for creating a cohesive ecosystem when used in conjunction with other Apple products. Though have received criticism for not functioning as well or with as many features when used With competitive devices and instead often relying on Apple's proprietary features, software, and services to work as intended by Apple, an approach often described as walled garden as of 2023. There are six Mac computer families in production: iMac consumer all-in-one desktop computer introduced in 1998, Mac Mini consumer sub-desktop computer introduced in 2005, MacBook Pro professional notebook introduced in 2006, Mac Pro professional workstation introduced in 2006, MacBook Air consumer ultra-thin notebook introduced in 2008, Mac Studio Professional small form factor workstation introduced in 2022. Macs use Apple Silicon chips, run the Mac OS operating system, and include Apple software like the Safari web browser, iMovie for home movie editing, GarageBand for music creation, and the iWork productivity suite. Apple also sells Pro apps, Final Cut Pro for video production, Logic Pro for musicians and producers, and Xcode for software developers. Apple also sells a variety of accessories for Macs, including the Pro Display XDR, Apple Studio Display, Magic Mouse, Magic Trackpad, and Magic Keyboard. The iPhone is Apple's line of smartphones which run the iOS operating system. The first iPhone was unveiled by Steve Jobs in January 9, 2007. Since then, new iPhone models have been released every year. When it was introduced, its multi-touch screen was described as revolutionary and a game changer for the mobile phone industry. The device has been credited with creating the app economy. iOS is one of the two major smartphone platforms in the world. Alongside Android, the iPhone has generated large profits for the company and is credited with helping to make Apple one of the world's most valuable publicly traded companies. As of the end of 2024, the iPhone for nearly half of the company revenue. So this is the information of Apple Incorporation Company. This video is for education purpose only. If you like my video, you can like this video, and we will talk about more companies information in my video, like where is company working and what is the company futures and how many workers are working in this company, and in coming years which products are launching in coming years. So daily new updates I will create in my video. So if you will subscribe my YouTube channel, you can get new companies information. So if you like my video, please subscribe my YouTube channel now, and I will create very soon new video. So if you like my video, please subscribe my YouTube channel now. We will meet in next video. Now bye bye all.